thorough pace, premium racing analytics, allowing bettors to identify races with extreme pace scenarios in a matter of seconds. Capital OTB's mobile wagering platform. Bet any place, anytime with Capital OTB's mobile wagering platform. And CapitalOTBBet.com, the premier wagering site in New York State.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Handicappers Report alongside Seth Merrow. I'm Anthony Mormino on a beautiful weather Sunday, and great day to come up to the track. And there's going to be great racing, and there are very few days when I am less than very enthusiastic. This is one of them. Obviously, a terrible day yesterday, and our heartfelt condolences to the connections because it's rough. It's the worst thing in our sport, and it happened at a big moment on a beautiful day for a beautiful horse. And there are no words really, except I don't know. It's rough.
It's tough to come in the day after and reflect back on some really nice performances, and it was a great day yesterday with a record crowd and enthusiastic crowd, and it's tough to come in the next day because, for better or worse, and understandably, the story was Maple Leaf Mel and the breakdown, the fatality, and right in the shadow of the wire. But I'll tell you, I went back and I was reflecting last night, and I went back and pulled up articles of Ruffian and Go for Juan, and Go for Juan seems fairly comparable. And I looked it up just to get the feel for what those were like for folks who were there. And I wasn't there, but Go for Juan might have been comparable. But I have never on the racetrack. And racing is full of emotional highs and lows, sometimes very high and sometimes very low. But I have never on the racetrack experienced that split-second change of emotion from the highest of highs to the lowest of lows yesterday, where the crowd, I think many in the crowd either knew the story of Maple Leaf Mel, who had started the career at Bill Parcells, of course, the Giants coach that upstate New York is familiar with. He was searching for his first Grade 1 victory as an owner, had given the horse to the trainer, named the horse after the trainer. She had beaten cancer. There have been TV features of her sleeping in the stall with the horse. And I think a lot of people were familiar with that story. But if they weren't familiar with that story, they still realized they were seeing an incredible performance that 20 yards from the wire, everybody over there was celebrating. It was just, she's going to do it. She put in a great performance, and they were on their feet and going. And then in a split second, it completely changed. And I've never been, on the racetrack for a moment like that. It was really sad. Trainer Melanie Giddings was inconsolable, understandably, in the winner's circle. And Bill Parcells was obviously upset. And Sean Clancy did a nice piece in the Saratoga special, kind of recapping it, as Sean Clancy can do. Pulled out the emotion from it and talked to a lot of the other participants, including the connections of Pretty Mischievous, who got moved up, obviously, or wound up the winner in that situation. And, trainer saying, it's hard to feel good about a win in a situation like this. I was rooting for, if we couldn't win, I was rooting for her and her story. There was no winner's circle ceremony. There was no picture. There was no trophy. The folks behind Pretty Mischievous said, it's not the proper moment for that. So
as you can see now, horses are making their way up for the next marker race in race 2
overall, because there were other stakes performances that were very nice, but you just have to recognize, as I say, I've never seen a flip of the switch in a split second like that, from the highest of highs to the lowest of lows. It was a sad moment.
I was sitting with the McAnallys, who trained Bayakoa at that moment. Oh. Mrs. McAnally's fingers into my right forearm. That was the worst for me, because it was
that, to me,
it was awful. Mrs.
Yeah.
Lunger was sitting about 20 feet in front of me, who owned Go for One, Christiana Stables. I remember getting up. It was awful. It was just, and walking around and basically hearing Tom Durkin call what is actually one of the greatest moments in the Breeders' Cup, Lester Pickett on Royal Academy from the one hole, sweeping around and winning. And I would say that probably only because of my propensity with memory and things, I remember it, but I bet you could poll many people who were there that day and say just be a fog. And another thing is, I just assumed Randy Romero had the mount on Izvestia in the Classic. And I just remember he can't be riding. He just went into the earth. And I think Gary Stevens was like the only big-time jockey that didn't have a mount. And I said, well, it's got to be Gary Stevens, guy in the line at Belmont. In those days, we still bet in lines. It's like, no, he's still on the mount. And I was like, geez, that was and Mrs. Lunger stayed the whole day. People came up to her boxes. Remember, the Distaff was like the third race of the day, third Breeders' Cup race of the day. They had 2 non-Breeders' Cup races, but it's not going to be an easy show, and I don't have any connections. I mean, the one thing, you kind of, if you're in my position, is she ran them off their feet. I mean, she was great. I mean, those were big-time horses, and she crushed them.
The comments yesterday from fans and horse people alike were she was the winner. She was going to stay undefeated with a big performance, and so it's just, it was
and obviously a spring champion. And then this is what I often think. Like, so I go on ESPN, and because Coach Parcells owns it, it's on there. It would never be on there. So there's horse racing on ESPN, and people are going to click on Coach Parcells, and you're like, maybe White Barrio winning the Whitney, but that would never make it. It doesn't have enough interest. So let's get to something. I mean, it's not bad, but Cody's Wish. I said it yesterday. I mean,
was it the distance? I don't know whether he was ever really in that. It didn't seem like. I don't know. It was.
I know one thing. It's hard to take that short price on a horse where you have legitimate horse racing questions. Now, I had White Barrio. I mean, I end up having the exact deal with it, but I didn't think he was tremendous yesterday.
Yeah.
Richard Dutrow Jr. from the Vanquish for a decade gets this horse and puts in, really, if Cody's Wish had come to run, could he have beaten White Barrio yesterday? And then Zandon ran second. And now the question for me, and what do you do with Cody's Wish next?
Well, I think they aim for the Dirt Mile,
which is, can he get a Horse of the Year championship through that route?
In the handicap division this year, maybe.
Okay, all right. So I mean, White Barrio was terrific. That'll get lost in the wake because not only following it, but that Cody's Wish didn't run big in it. So, and that he's kind of made his first big splash since the Florida Derby, although he had run well in his 2 previous races. I mean, non-winning races, but I thought actually races where he's run better than I ever thought he could run. And then he broke through going 2 turns like a beast. And for a guy who's a pace guy, White Barrio, not White Barrio, Cody's Wish, to me, there are very few horses that can outrun pace scenarios. You have to be great. And I think Cody's Wish got a race scenario that wasn't his cup of tea, and he wasn't able to overcome it.
Yeah.
He didn't get a fast pace at which to pick up the pieces.
Yeah, I mean, 24, 48,
yeah,
111.
he's doomed. He's not good enough, or he wasn't good enough yesterday to laugh at pace. There's very few horses, in my belief, that can laugh at pace, and he wasn't. I thought it was now my
White Barrio did get his grade 1.
I've said it now. He is a grade 1 bona fide winner. He didn't win a restricted.
And a legit.
This is big. That's a huge lead. He had won a restricted 3-year-old early season grade 1 and really hadn't done much since then. But yesterday he stepped up on the big stage and was tremendous. What was the official margin? 6?
6 1/4, just over 6.
I mean, not too many horses win the Whitney by 6.
Yeah, big performance.
6 plus. And you beat probably the Horse of the Year.
Yeah.
Or the Pro Tem. He was certainly the Pro Tem leader.
Yeah, you would think.
Now, does he go straight to the Breeders' Cup from here?
That's a good question. I don't know. I didn't see post-race comments.
I mean, the Whitney is a long time. The Jockey Club Gold Cup, not so much.
Yeah.
But, you're kind of thinking, what spot would he
that's just
go for? If you're going to the Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile, where do you go? Bill Mott will have the answer. He's in the Hall.
I'll also tout that Ahmed Mike Welch on Thursday, and he gave a little push to White Abario, so $22 and change there. So a nice performance. Also on the day, program trading looked pretty good in the Saratoga Derby.
Yes.
But as did Web Slinger in a ding-dong battle there right down to the wire. But program trading kind of comes back on the inside. Web Slinger at one point, I thought maybe had the edge. Farbridge winds up third in there. So up the three logicals, 1, 2, 3, just in kind of a reversed order, a juggled up order there with program trading. Lightly raced, but certainly what we'd seen so far was certainly eligible to do it.
Now, the Saratoga Oaks and the Saratoga Derby are fantastic races. I will say that me going forward, I'll have a little ashes because of the given the ground. I mean, I think that's a big thing. I think the Euros lean on it as a crutch more often than not. First thing they always say is, "Oh, the ground had given it," And as I talked about how the King George, my favorite race, they usually get good going. They had a rainstorm. They had soft going. So I'll temper it a little bit. So my point being mostly that I'll give Farbridge another chance down the road if they can get firm turf and to see if he can continue his ascent. But, and I also think because of the amount of rain, it's not only I think it also gets heavy. It gets really heavy with that much rain. I mean, and that's, it's not like you have a dry summer and then you have some rain and they list it as good. Well, you're thinking that, it's still kind of really good, but we'll see. Just temper it going forward, the turf races, because of the condition.
And I wonder if that didn't hinder Caravel because she didn't show up at her.
I thought, just optically looking at it, looked like she was spinning her wheels.
Yeah.
And that was the first thing I thought about. Listen, nobody likes to pick against short price horses than me, and I picked against her, but I thought it wasn't going to be her day. I mean, she looked non-committed to racing. I think it was the ground.
Yeah.
Just conjecture on my part.
Cogburn gets it done at 7-1. That helped me. I hit the middle pick 3 for 50 cents. Paid about $300, and I was not expecting that after it kicked off with the $2.70 horse. But what saved me was smoking tea in the lure. I had that one down at the bottom of my mix, but it made my ticket. It was the biggest price in there. The Shug horse gets it done in the lure there. So again, with the $2.70,
a lot of appropriateness there for Shug to win the lure.
But yeah, it was the thrill. Just so it was $2.70. Then an $11 horse in the second leg, $17, $13. But for 50 cents to 300 plus, kicking things off with the $2.70 was, I thought, very generous. I was happy.
I would hope so.
Although I will say that
I didn't get enough.
I will say the day started in a frustrating fashion with my dark horse play of the day in the first race. Oh, and live, I thought I had it. They went into the wire live. I thought I had it. Then they showed the replay. Then I wasn't sure. Then the numbers came up, and I pulled up the photo last night. It was
just had to do it to yourself.
Oh, why? Because I couldn't pull it. I thought, how far was that? And it was not far. And it was literally, if you watch the slow-mo, I'm ahead right at the wire, but then it's like, oh, that was frustrating.
Yes, it was. We'll do the promo since the DePaula play of the day will be live in the 10 o'clock hour on Loose on the Lead as Steve Bick has the play
coming
of the day
up,
today.
Clark Brewster will join us. He won with Cogburn. We'll talk about that and more. And Tom Rooney from the NTRA also jumping on racing across Loose on the Lead, on a Sunday. We were going to get Nicole Russo, but she said, I think I'm going to be busy on the sales grounds. She, of course, covers the breeding end of the game for the racing forum with the sales coming up. Do want to remind people, if you've never been, come up. The sales are a lot of fun. Right across the street, down the street, down East Avenue, a block or so from the racetrack. But you can come, you can stand in the backyard. There's a bar back there. You can watch the horses and kind of have some fun mingling with the who's who and pick up a catalog and watch them and see if there's some fireworks with maybe some 7-figure horses. And if you don't get a chance, the beginning of this week, going into next weekend, the New York bread sale has become kind of popular and fun as well. But again, go right down the street and enjoy some of that action. Also up here today, low rollers. Don't forget, we had Jay and Ray on Thursday, and we touted the low roll. Jay Connolly and Ray Howell are the guys at the booth, and so I invited them in because I talk about it so much. And they said they had a lot of new folks playing because we touted it with them in here on Thursday morning. And it's Thursdays and Sundays. And again, $40 to get in, $10 goes into the prize pool. You get a card for $30. You play $2 win place and show bets during the day. You keep whatever you make on the card. I was right there on Thursday, and my card ended up with $80 or $90 at the end of the day. Now, unfortunately, there was a huge winner at the end that knocked me down the list a little bit, so I didn't get prize money, but I kept the $90. So it's a lot of fun. You can maybe win a little extra something, the prize money, and they're getting 200 people or so. So there's a couple thousand in the prize pool.
I got to tell you, I can't believe there's not like 2,000 people in it. This is like the greatest thing ever invented.
And there's no
for the masses.
There's no takeout on the prize pool. That's big too.
It's unbelievable. This is the racetrack doing as well for you. All they're missing is like 2 hot dogs and a Coke.
Yeah.
I mean, everything else is like.
You do get a T-shirt if you win.
Okay.
Like a little.
All right. But, and I've said
You'd
this
rather
before,
have the
the reason it's the greatest is I am of the opinion that every adult that comes to the racetrack and is looking to wager brings $40. I mean, it's a very fair buy-in, and like you said, you only give it up $10, and you take a big shot here. I'll tell you.
And I always say it's a good way to wade into contest play, which is a lot of fun, and you think a little bit differently, and then you can transition over Capital OTB. We have the tourney bets every weekend. And
I was thinking about this a lot because of my drives, but I was like, I think it should be an amalgamation of like pick and pray. So if you put in a horse for like the last 3 legs, that one horse you can get at the odds. But any other horse you go a direction, you hit a cap of like 7-2. You have to eliminate the idea of that's not who you really like. That's just who you bet to circumnavigate the waters. And I think it would be easy to find out a level where no, you can't. I just
because I mean that's what killed me the other day. The next to the last race, a $44 horse won,
and at least 6 or 8 people.
Yeah, if you get 200 people and they're down the list, they're just shopping what's going to get me up the list. It's not totally handicapping there.
I think it's fair to say, Seth, it's not handicapping at all, unless on the pick and pray you had the 40, and on the pick and pray you would have to invest in that horse.
Yeah,
like you got to bet. I said, and then that person would be rewarded if at 10:30 in the morning you liked what was his name, Best Endeavor, Next Endeavor. If you really liked him, well then that person I do think should get rewarded. But if you're like, no, I think that's fairer. You might not agree, but I think that's fair. I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. I was going to toss.
It's a great thing. Everyone should be in.
Yeah, so keep that in mind. That's this morning or today as well. But today down at the Clubhouse Racebook, we continue promos. It's just the whole Saratoga season at the Racebook. There's something going on virtually every day. Not virtually, it is every day. And today is the double promo day. Match bet and exacta board. Clubhouse Racebook, 711 Central Avenue in Albany. And the team's probably been selected. I didn't get the email, or I didn't check. But
it's the day
you'll be notified at some point if you made the show team. There was a lot of entry. Well, there's a lot, relatively speaking. There had to be 60 or 70 entries for 10 spots for the show pool, and I will try to make it happen. Last week I really thought I had a pretty good sequence.
Do you have a sketch? Do you have it sketched out where you want to go?
No, I don't want to do that because I want to wait for scratches.
Okay, well, very reasonable. Trust me, doing this show. Scratches. I mean, the weather's glorious today.
So I don't really want to get tied on so much until I can get a better idea.
All right then.
But yeah, so that's today, and we will try to knock it out of the park.
Yes,
see how that works.
10 race card back to the 1:10 usual post time. Are you ready?
I am.
Okay, the opener. 2-year-old fillies made in special weights on the turf, 8.5, and it was tweeted out that they're going to stay on the turf. I'll be intrigued at the labeled turf condition. Because it's
Yesterday
hard to
was
go
a nice day, though. I mean, if there had been a little more of a breeze, I would have been a little more confident on things. But it was sunny and relatively warm.
Well, we went from soft, right, 2 days ago, where they ran the Oaks, and then yielding. See if we get up to good, right?
Hopefully.
Good is good.
Yeah.
I'm good enough. But go ahead, fire
6,
away.
8, 7, and 2 for me. I'll put Kingdom Come on top. Bill Mott firster, and he's doing okay with firsters. But notably, this one had a little sibling called Art Collector. You might remember, wound up a grade 1 millionaire, but second in debut, won the second start of the career. Justified pretty good with first-time starters, 43 of them so far this year. 6 wins, 6 seconds, 6 thirds. And again, Bill Mott doing okay with the first-time starters. So I thought at 15-1, this horse was very interesting and very playable with a little nature and nurture, the breeding and the trainer. We'll put Kingdom Come on top. Second spot, Weigh the Risks. It's a Mendelssohn offspring from Chad Brown and Klarovich, a potent win-early team with, again, a little win-early breeding, and Floribunda, also by Mendelssohn, going out for Todd Pletcher. So similar scenario to Weigh the Risks. I will mention it on the fourth spot. I have Sands of War. Part of the ownership group is our friends at West Point Thoroughbreds. And Cherie DeVoe. The day before the meet, I was on the radio with Steve Bick, and Cherie DeVoe was on just before me and talked a little bit about this horse. I've had Tommy Bellhouse on. I've had Jason Blewett on from West Point. They talked about it. When I had Tommy on, the horse was on, I think, that same day and scratched because the race was moved off the grass. But there's a little bit of breeding here. Sands of War, the dam is a sibling to Justify. So I think they're looking for good things. Will we get it in the first start? I don't know, but keep your eyes on Sands of War. I have it 6, 8, 7, and 2.
Well, yesterday, the off-the-turf race that I thought would be tough to hold horses in, that group of 8, I think only 2 of them ran. So we got that. Here, I think this is a fantastic race. But for me, a lot of guessing going on. The 3, and I'm just going for post position. The 3, it's hot in here for Chad Brown. I have Sands of War. You see my 10-3-2. The 4, who isn't in either of our mix, Karina DeBella for Grand Motion, intrigues me great. It's a terrific race, especially if you have an opinion, a strong one. I don't know how you have one of those, but I'm 10-3-2. Azara scheduled to make the career debut for Christophe Clement. Couple workouts, the pedigree for the turf. On the outside, we'll see. But boy, the 2 Mendelssohns you meant. I mean, this is a killer. I have later Darling, who is the number 3 saddlecloth, breaking from the rail, the temporary rail, and then I have Sands of War. You have not in the mix, but you mentioned I had Sands of War because by the Warfront in 3rd. But I'm telling you, folks, the main body has 10. There won't be a single batting of the eye whoever wins.
Yeah,
I mean, if you have
loaded
inside quality information, you have a huge edge in this race because, I mean, it is deep, deep.
And I just, while you're talking,
yes.
Again, folks, excuse me as I look away and go to the computer because just trying to get up-to-date information. But just a little while ago, about an hour ago, Dave Krennic tweeted out Joe Rosario not on his mounts today. He did take some stitches to the lower lip and according to Krennic, a little body sore today.
Well, I'll tell you one thing.
Surprisingly.
Almost because of how far she was in front, helped Joel Rosario. It's always, I mean, for the jockey, being in front and falling has got to be as many Hail Marys as you can get in.
My first thought was that was the worst possible scenario. Then I thought it could have been with other, but they were luckily
outside of her not running her down.
Second race today, maiden specials going 3/4 of a mile.
A dandy, opening daily double, especially for the folks who truly like, and I understand like the Travers and the Whitney and the Alabama, the 3 biggest races, but Saratoga is always known for 2-year-old racing. And you get the daily double with the open company fillies here. 6-5-3. We landed on the same horse on top. A Rusty Arnold, but it's the Omaha Beach angle. Rusty isn't well known for having firsters, but he's had some bombs here. I think Furcroft comes to mind, but 8-1. I'll be surprised. I'd be interested to see what the board says because you've talked from time to time when we get to nature versus nurture, and the Omaha Beaches have I've had both. I think there's been 2 firsters, and I think I have both of them trying to get the 3rd one. solid workouts for a rusty firster. For second, number 5, your exacta also weighs and means. The Offspring of Practical Joke for Claridge. Now, this horse is 5-2 on the morning line for third. Number 3, Value Area, the Todd Pletcher runner. Good luck. I mean, you got to figure they're going to bet the 3 and the 5, and I'll be intrigued if they bet the 6. And it's my way of thinking. This is a case where I'm not. If it goes up, I don't worry so much because his going up might be because the other horses.
Yeah.
But if he goes down, I'm going to be enthused.
Yeah.
Because for him to go down in this field is good. So 6-5-3 for me. Obviously,
I'm in the same boat.
Yeah.
They purchased the horse at a 2-year-old sale back in April down in Ocala for $350 with Omaha Beach. That attracted my attention. I'm a little shocked though you didn't use the 9 in the mix. No Risk It, No Biscuit. The other Omaha Beach from Tommy Amos. I put that one in third, and they bookend the Chad Klarovich runner by Practical Joke. So again, a little breeding there. Of the Pletchers, Cali Amata, I'm guessing there by Street Sense, but Value Area intriguing as well. Either one of the Pletchers.
Double's outstanding today. I mean, if you nail it going forward, kudos to you. But the information you're gonna be able to extract out of it going forward. On to the third race, scheduled 5.5 on the turf. Capital B Claimers in for 35.
2, 4, 7, and 1 for me. I'm with Chrome Plated Heart on top. I'm going to kind of forgive the last race. The last race was okay, but the number was maybe a little light for what is going to be necessary in this field. But overall, you go down the last half a dozen races or so, this horse is tossing out numbers that are going to match up nicely with this group. I was going to say a little half step of class relief, but again, the 40 at Laurel, we'll see how the class stacks up exactly. But before that was in some allowance races down in Maryland. I think it's going to class up. That's the point. Class up nicely with this group today. Chrome Plated Heart on top. Crowding out, Peter Walder, trainee. Claim 2 starts back. Try to race at Belmont off the claim. Relatively similar company. And kind of clunked. That has me concerned, but I think that'll play into the price. I would think from the rail, they will have to get back to the early speed. That's kind of what I'm hoping for. And they also come off a bullet work, the best of 89. So we'll look for this horse to bounce back to that speed shown if you go down the page a little bit. And I think that'll be productive. I did put Crowding Out. I mentioned Crowding Out in the second spot, but and originally I was focusing on that speed. I eventually moved Crowding. He got crowded out. He's actually down the 4th spot. But with that speed, it'll be interesting to see the first furlong. If he does shoot from the one post position, just concerned me a little bit. But if he does wind up kind of a furlong out being in front, then I may kick myself. But so I have Chrome Plated Heart on top, Crowding Out down at the bottom. They bookend. Miss Domina in the second spot. Steps out of an allowance try earlier in the meet here for George Weaver, who's having a pretty good meet. And I think it gets to a far better class level in here. And then Shinful in the second spot. Stepping out of some state-bred optional claimer, non-winners to 2. I think class-wise, now in the Linda Rice barn, this horse is going to stack up very, very well. Might wind up being the one to beat. But for me, 2, 4, 7, and 1.
We have the same exacta, which makes for poor television, but that's who we like. I will say this. At the end of the day, in thinking about what the turf may or may not be, the 1-2 exacta would be popular with me because I think we have more positive reactions for these two runners, especially Crowding Out with a non-firm turf course. And I'm relatively sure we're going to get that. And I think that moves Crowding Out way up for me. I mean, Crowding Out would be maybe my top pick. I'm mostly
does have the win last year over the good turf right here.
So I'm less worried about the 1 and the 2 with the give in the ground than other horses. Not that other horses may or may not be able to do it. I just don't have any evidence of it. It seems to be many firm turf courses. So I'm 248, as of about 10:55 yesterday morning. But I want to say that I agree with Seth. Seth has the 1 in the 4th spot. I would be nudging the 1 in between the 2 and the 4 here, folks, because I think they have shown at least some positive abilities with give on the turf course. So it is 248 technically, but for me, you got to bring Crowding Out way, way up in your handicapping selections. Play of the day?
Oh, Dark Horse Play of the Day? Correct,
Are we
correct.
Have I thrown you a curveball?
No. Usually I have it kind of separated.
That's what I was worried about. It's like, where?
I have it kind of separated out, and the last couple of days I just haven't separated it out properly. So, obviously, I'm going to the 7th race today, Maiden 40 Claimers on the grass, and I'm going to use Spirit and Fire. I will say the horse in the opener at the price is very intriguing. Floribunda. Kingdom Come for Bill Mott at 15-1. That one's intriguing. That may be
now you
second.
Get the crux of the biggest problem when you have to choose one horse, which I am taking on water at Del Mar, whereas last year I did the whole card and it worked out. But then you have 7 races, maybe you like 4. Now you got to pull the trigger, and you really want to pull the trigger the wrong way.
No, when I was over doing the every night doing the little spot with Channel 10, I'd have to pick 3 races, 3 horses, and so you win 5 on the day, but not the 3 races. You're like, oh, you're killing me.
Not that it matters much to the people out here, but just so a very good friend of mine, he texted me the other day after I've gone 4 for 5. He texted me that he's going to take on the second half of the card. I'm like, there's no way I'm going 8 for 10 today. So I said, you get them, but you should know that I've gone 4 for 5, and I haven't had too many 7-win days in my life. Oh, people don't realize the show pool, picking one race, it's hard.
Yeah,
it's hard.
But we'll see. We'll see if we, like I say,
You're really gonna hate it, that 15-1 Bill Mott was.
Well, I'm tossing it out as my
second
B level the Dark Horse Play of the Day. But I went with, in the 7th race, number 6 Spirit and Fire, Todd Pletcher, a 3rd-time starter. At 10-1. Pletcher, the last 3 years, a relatively limited sample, but 20% turf sprint to route, maiden special weight to maiden claiming. There was a sibling called Quiet Company that was a multiple winner going a mile on the turf. The sire with turf routes, 14%. And this is kind of quirky, but I went back and looked, that 20% over the last 3 years. There was this horse called Orb in the Tower that had a really similar scenario to this one, going off the 2 dirt sprints, maiden special weight to maiden claiming, and a turf route. There's another sibling called Bright Work that won the first 2 starts of the career, including a stakes race. So I thought there was all kinds of breeding. The trainer has some interesting stats, and a horse, as I say, had to go back a couple of years, but had a really similar scenario to this. And so at 10-1, Spirit and Fire looks really intriguing to me in the 7th race. Dark Horse Play of the Day, brought to you by the Dark Horse Mercantile, downtown Saratoga. I've heard from some folks who have made the trip and have totally enjoyed it. So keep it in mind, they stay open late down on Broadway. You can walk the street and stop in the Dark Horse down the street, their sister store, Impressions of Saratoga. Today's Dark Horse Play of the Day. Race number 7, horse number 6, Spirit and Fire.
Take a quick break. When we come back, the middle, pick 4.
It only takes one upset to make history, and now you can be part of Saratoga's long tradition at the Dark Horse Mercantile. The Dark Horse Mercantile offers a carefully curated selection of clothing, gifts, home decor, from one-of-a-kind vintage racing memorabilia to select brands like Barber and Under Armour, as well as exclusive Dark Horse branded merchandise. So celebrate the Dark Horse in all of us at the Dark Horse Mercantile, downtown Saratoga, where the smart bet is always the Dark Horse.
For more than 4 generations, Bruce Cerrone and his family have continued the 101-year tradition of delighting their local following and faithful summer crowd with the finest authentic Italian recipes. Classic Italian dishes made with the freshest ingredients, served in a home-like setting. Some things have changed in the last 101 years, but not Pinnell's commitment to the finest in Italian cuisine. Pinnell's Italian Restaurant, a Saratoga tradition since 1922. 284 Jefferson Street, just minutes from the track.
Capital OTB is now streaming live on Roku. The RTN Racing channel on Roku lets you watch OTB TV live through your Roku device or your Amazon Fire Stick, rather than being limited to computers and mobile devices, which means you can now watch OTB live wherever you are. Simply open Roku, scroll to find the RTN channel, then click on OTB TV. OTB TV on Roku,
Try it now.
Welcome back to the Handicappers Report on this Sunday morning. Seth, Merrow, and Anthony Mormino live in Saratoga in front of Clare Court. I got stopped this morning with a whole slew of Pletcher horses coming across. I think Jose Ortiz was on one of them. There was a long line of them. I don't think they were using Clare. I think they were kind of making their way maybe to the main track or over to Oklahoma because Todd's assistant was on a big tired bike and he was coming down the street. He didn't follow them to watch out here. He was clearly headed in another direction. I'm sure he was headed to watch them. So, fourth race today at Saratoga, optional claimer, 1 mile and 3/8 on the grass. Top of the page, I have written wide open.
Yeah, that's and I know, like, for what we do, it makes it, less easy, but it's great. I mean, competitive racing, we have a field of 7, and I think it's fantastic. Seth doesn't even have my
I got it in the 4th spot.
Board.
Fourth
okay,
spot.
But listen, who would win here, bro? Brendan Walsh coming off of the victory yesterday. Ensemble, I guess, maybe would have a couple people being like, oh, that's a little surprising, but the other 6 would be like, okay. And I went for Graham Motion on the rail, 3rd start of the year, the first one off the bench from November into from Europe into the United States. Big effort. I think a type of effort that wins here. Then I had what I'm just terming the regression was 9-2 in the United States debut, raced big, came back as the favorite, ran far less big. We draw the hedge here, the temporary rail, I should say. Manny Franco, I'm hopeful. I think that last race, as Seth says, the buyers, I think it helps our odds, and I think we've already run a race in the United States good enough to win here. For a second, I have the 4 from Mark Cassie, another horse making the 3rd start since late January and consistently has run about well enough to win here as a player with IRAD. You're probably going to get hurt on the price. And then My Risky Affair for Christophe Clement. Scored on a yielding turf course. Ran 2nd as speed favorite on a yielding turf course. But I'm 1-4-5 in a wide open 4th.
Intriguing that 3 of these horses come out of the R.G. Dick Memorial, which I said the weekend that was run, I said, watch those races down to Delaware because they typically play into races up in Saratoga to see some horses come out of that race and run. But you think run up in stakes races, but they're putting up $156,000. Now that includes the New York bonus, but without the New York bred bonus, it's still $120,000. So, this is stakes level money available. So I guess on that end, not a surprise. And I went with the horse out of the 3 from the stake down at Delaware that ran the best, and that was Ever Summer. It's also 3rd start back this season. Nice improvement start 1 to start 2. Has the potential maybe to be primed to move forward off of that. Does have some early speed. There are a couple others in here. My Risky Affair, maybe What Love Looks Like, who maybe will show that. But I think the speed is going to be Ever Summer. And again, tends to be counterintuitive, but at a longer distance, if they can lope along on the lead, they become very tough late. So Ever Summer on top. My Risky Affair in the 2nd spot has nice positional speed and should be stalking and sitting right there. Is also a Christophe Clement runner. And again, with that stalking speed, maybe gets the first shot at the early runners. And then Telbia, again, if I'm getting close to that, also coming out of the stake down at Delaware with a pretty good performance. Stake down at Churchill before that. Again, ran an okay 4th in both of those. I have your top pick in the 4th spot. I think that one is also very live in here. But for me, 7, 5, 4, and 1.
On to the 5th at 1 mile on the dirt, 4-year-old and up. Claimers 12-5.
5 to 1 entry, 2 and 3. I'm going to put Sprinklehead on top. Lots of early speed for this one. I think that speed could be more potent on the move from Ellis up to Saratoga, more notably. Little dose of class relief in here. So I think this one is an absolute player, again, with that little class relief coming in from out of town with early speed. The entry, Grump's Little Tots and Durkin's Call. Between the 2, I prefer Durkin's Call. Now, it is a class drop that maybe leaves you a little cold, particularly given the scenario. Avoided claim 2 back and then tossed in an absolute clunker last time at $32,000. Now comes back for $12,500. I'll give this horse one more shot, though, before I, know for sure that the form has gone in the wrong direction. And if we get back to really any of the races prior to the last, fits in snugly with this group. And then Super Catch in the third spot, Rob Atter's trainee. Tried a little bit lesser last time, right up here at Saratoga earlier in the meet, and ran a pretty good second. I think fits okay with this group as well. Although there are some class droppers that maybe will have an edge, but they're, including my second choice there, Dirk and Skull. They're class droppers that also maybe leave you scratching your chin a little bit. But I have it 5-1 entry, 2 and 3.
All I can say is good luck to the horizontal players. These two races back to back. I don't know how you don't go 3 or 4 deep to protect yourself to move on. I'm 2-5-7. I could easily take the one entry in here. Who else? It's just 5 or 6 deep. I mean, I just took.
It's one of those puzzles where a bunch of them in their last race haven't done that well, but you go just 2, 3, 4 starts back, they've done okay. So who's going to come show up today?
Right, today.
Yeah.
So I'm like, maybe Rob Atras from the inside going the mile with Manny Franco and a little early speed. Maybe we'll have a little edge there, enough to get home at about a $10 or $12 horse. I have Sprinklehead for second, who you have on top. I think, the Ellis Park runners, Jason Barkley, we'll see if we could move forward there. And then Hammer for
That's
Robbie
the one
Falcone
I regret leaving out. That may get Hammer and Hammer may get me.
Been off since before the Derby, so we'll see. But boy, for the horizontal people, good luck. 2-5-7 for me. I guess it helps there if you really, if you have an opinion, it helps you out a lot, and you move on and you spread another legs. But boy, those last 2 races we did, I'm like, boy, more power to you having a firm opinion.
Yeah, like I say, I left Hammer and Hammer
I'm
out.
envious.
And that one is tough.
Yeah.
Sixth race today, Maiden Specials going 6 furlongs. Again, they're going for a purse of $136,500. Are there any New York breds in here? That New York bred bonus is crazy. I'm not seeing any. So,
I think we had a couple pick it off, but
there have been a couple.
So that's
so the purse essentially without the New York bred still a generous $105,000.
And still, the 105 and the New York bonus doesn't equal the purse. When you add up,
I meant to ask somebody that.
It doesn't add up. It never has. So there's leakage somewhere.
I'm gonna have to ask.
219 for me. Seth and I are on the same firster. The Bill Mott Godolphin into Mischief, which you can only imagine if 7th Street. She was a slightly above. She was a quality. Mare a couple of years ago. I think she won down at Oakland on a big race, but you can only imagine what it would have gone for through a sales ring. So Holiday Road, once again, the board will tell me a little something as we kick off the late pick 5, 8-1 in the morning line. If they're dead, I'm dead on the cold on the board. I'm probably dead in the water. Hot on the board. We're probably on a horse that's live here for Bill Mott. From the rail, Norm Cassie sends out Empire Island for Mary Lou Whitney. And for third on the outside, Better You Go. Todd Pletcher's firster from Matoli. 219. Continued good luck to the horizontals.
It is fun to still see the Mary Lou Whitney colors.
Absolutely.
The Eaton blue.
Absolutely.
2, 4, 9, and 6 for me. Holiday Road, 7th Street, good on the track, but good in the breeding shed as well as this one. A sibling to Lake Avenue, who you may remember from just a few years ago. Second in debut, then won the next couple of starts, including the 2019 Demoiselle. So with that breeding, will we get I'm going to be intrigued to see if the 8-1 holds up, because people will kind of plug into that, I think. Gypsy Tales in the second spot. This is the one that may help us get the odds, because I think off the career debut, Gypsy Tales is very, very playable. It was a solid number down at Ellis. Ellis, again, been saying this for a couple of years now, and I think most people are clued in. But if you haven't, the Ellis meet has become a little more potent, but 2-year-olds down at Ellis are very potent. And so this one coming off the near miss early in July for Steve Asmussen with a solid number. Gypsy Tales might wind up being the one to beat. And Before You Go by Matoli from Todd Pletcher. I thought there was a little something there. Sire, trainer, first time out. Won't be a shock in the 6th, 2, 4, 9, and 6.
I think they won their race like 2 out of 3 years when I was ending high school. So I think, right? State Dinner and Silverbuck, 80, 82. That was theirs.
State Dinner, I remember.
Yeah, and then Silverbuck beat Tap Shoes amongst others, and those were their silks, winning trophy to me. I give it to me. On to the we take our a quick break here. When we come back, the late pick 4.
Come on.
I want sales reports on my desk by Monday.
Whoops. My bad.
Love racing? RTN brings you every live simulcast on your home television, plus live video streaming and race replays on your PC and mobile devices. To order, visit rtn.tv. RTN, a breed apart.
A day at the track isn't complete without a night at the Horseshoe. Great food, hot music, and cold drinks. So why go downtown when all the action's just across from the track? The Horseshoe Inn at the corner of Nelson and Gridley.
Birdstone is an outside front. They're coming down to the finish. Can Smarty Jones hold on? Here comes Birdstone. Birdstone surges past. Birdstone wins the Belmont Stakes. But here comes High Chaparral. High Chaparral, the defending champ, to take it to Falbrough. These two arch rivals head to head with Joe Hart bearing down on them. It's going to be a 3-horse photo finish to the turn. Here's the wire. Photo finish.
Ladies and gentlemen, race number 7 on the Mellon Turf Course, 8.5 furlongs. Maiden claimers in for 40.
Again, my dark horse play of the day in here, Spirit and Fire, 6, 5, 1, and 9. I thought the 10 was also, it's another one of the races on the day that's really going to be fun and intriguing. The 10 at the price, I just wanted to mention that. I have it down. Yeah. It just misses my mix. But again, Spirit and Fire with the interesting, limited stat, but an interesting stat. Had a horse a couple of years ago, Pletcher did, that had a really similar scenario and got a win, coming out of a couple of dirt sprints and stretching in the third start to the turf. Again, there's some winning siblings going a mile on the turf. The sire okay with turf routers. So there was just a lot to like, particularly the 10-1 morning line price with one of the Ortiz brothers and Todd Pletcher with, I think, a live runner given the scenario. So Spirit and Fire on top. Get Respect for Barkley Tag going maiden special weight to maiden claiming. Clearly the seasonal debut was one that I think we'll have to draw a line through, but there's a trouble line there. So I think that we're eligible to draw the line. And given the races last year, if we can get somewhere close to that with the one race under the belt so far and the class drop, Get Respect, I think deserves respect. And then Addressable Market, as the name might indicate, Chad and Klarovich runner, 3 starts so far. Nice improvement in all 3, including the seasonal debut when dropped to this level. Should be a player with this group this afternoon. 6, 5, 1, and 9.
Well, you see my numbers, but the 1, the 2, the 5, the 6, the 9, the 10, the 12 are all live in this race. 12 in the main body. I have the 10. Now I have to negotiate getting into the race on the first turn and saving a little bit of ground with Manny Franco, because remember, it's a mile 16. It's on the Mellon Turf Course, which is a quicker run into the first turn. So, and a wider turn even on that geometry, that's less good, but can't keep me down was my 10-1 shot I put on top. I have Addressable Market from the Temporary Rail splitting my 10-1 shots. I think this horse will be strongly considered in the wagering. And Spirit and Fire, boy, I'd like to think you're going to be near 10-1, beaten favorite twice, be dropping for a tag for the first time. I think we're going to get, I don't know.
The buyers are a little light.
They are anemic.
Was a 4th and a 5th place finish.
Okay.
So I'm not sure.
Listen, from your lips to God's ears, but I'm 10-1-6 in the 7th.
Eighth race this afternoon. We're looking at stakes action. It's the Adirondack Grade 3 event. 6.5 furlongs is the trip for the 2-year-old fillies.
Oh boy, I looked at this for a long time, and I'm 4-6-3 in here. Seth doesn't even have my bright work to me, making the 3rd career start. Has already gone 6 furlongs. I just was really thinking this is in a very balanced race. Listen, I don't even have the 10 on here. I wouldn't. Becky's Joker to me. I'm a little surprised they didn't skip and wait for the spin away. Just how trainers like time off. I'm surprised that she's in here, but boy, what a good effort on debut. But for second, I have Saratoga Secret, Wayne Lucas's runner, who I thought raced very well and lost in the debut win of a Saratoga Stakes race in the runner-up in the Schuylerville. And then here you come again, Brad Cox's runner, huge figure on debut at Ellis 463.
I'm 9-3-10 and put your 4 down the 4th spot.
I have your 9. I mean, it's
Copper M coming off a big win down at Ellis. And as mentioned before, the 2-year-old races at Ellis have been very potent the last few years. It's Steve Asmussen training for Winchell off of that big debut. I think it's going to be a cozy fit in here. And that was a field of 12. And this horse just kind of ran away and hid from that bunch. So we'll put Copper M in the top spot. Here you come in the 2nd spot. Brad Cox trainee comes in off a nice big win in debut down at Ellis. So similar scenario to top pick. And then Becky's Joker. That was a debut win. Come up to Saratoga, get a grade 3 as Gary Contessa makes the return to the New York racing circuit in fine fashion. We had him on earlier this year on Racing Across America. And that he elects to come back here. I'll expect Becky's Joker to put in a good accounting of herself. I have it 9-3, 10, and 4.
Maybe she's kicking down the barn door
because
think. I was surprised when she showed up because I'm like, you got this one. You go for the grade 1. Take a quick break. When we come back, the late Daily Double.
For more than 4 generations, Bruce Cerrone and his family have continued the 101-year tradition of delighting their local following and faithful summer crowd with the finest authentic Italian recipes. Classic Italian dishes made with the freshest ingredients, served in a home-like setting. Some things have changed in the last 101 years, but not Pinnell's commitment to the finest in Italian cuisine. Pinnell's Italian Restaurant, a Saratoga tradition since 1922. 284 Jefferson Street, just minutes from the track.
The only thing better than watching the races is watching your own racehorse. With nearly 20 years experience in the racing industry, Bonaventure Stables' share-based ownership program enables everyday fans to become part owner of a thoroughbred for far less than you might think, with all the ownership perks at Saratoga, Belmont, Aqueduct, and other great tracks. Experience the thrill and lifestyle of owning your own thoroughbred racehorse. Learn more at bonaventurestables.com.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. 9th race. We don't run the 13 furlong turf races anymore. Remember those old 1 5/8? The old Seneca handicap on closing day in the early 80s. But the 3 turns 1 3/8 on tap in race number 9 for starter allowance fillies and mares.
That's right. Closing day. Yeah, that was the thing on closing day. 4, 1, 3, and 2 for me. I'm going to put Pentagon on top. Shug McGahee trainee coming up from a couple of okay starts at Monmouth. Obviously, the question mark is going to be the distance, but oftentimes in races like this, that's the question mark for a lot of them. But a horse that seems to be in good form comes up here. We'll trust they're making a good move up from Jersey. Don't mess with Tess in the 2nd spot. Irad Ortiz on board off a good try down at Belmont last time. 1/16. You go down the page, 1/8 prior to that, 1/16. So again, we're looking at horses that are all going to have to answer the question. Then Ruda in the 3rd spot comes in with a bullet workout down at Monmouth, but that was a while ago. It's actually raced a couple times since then, but has put in some pretty good performances. The bullet workout going, I bring that up because going the trip wouldn't jump out at me necessarily. I don't know if you're looking for a horse who's zipping 4 furlongs, but as I say, this horse has raced a couple of times since then. So, and what we've seen, I think, is enough to, again, put the horse in the mix, but we'll see who answers the distance question mark. 4, 1, 3, and 2.
Not that's relevant. Like, was it before the Belmont Secretary zipped 33 and change?
No.
I'm ready to go 12. I just had the 1st and 3rd. I thought Ruda, what I did like about the speed was, as you like to say, almost counterintuitive, these 11 furlong races, get a good forward position early. I think there's going to be give still on the turf and see if other people can react positively to you. I have Miss Christie on the outside of the main track of the main body, first off the claim, and then I have Pentagon for 3rd for Shug. 3, 8, 4 in the 9th.
Race number 10, again, going to go off at about 6:15 this evening. We're looking at state-bred maiden claimers, 8.5 furlongs on the grass.
Speaking of 8-2-12 for me. Miles, my top pick. Christophe Clement's runner has run exclusively for a tag, was runner-up most recently. This is the 4th career start, first one since May 19th. Still on the, is it WOLD? That's the old Harry Chapin song, but first time in for a tag for Dave Donk's runner, who has run he's run multiple figures good enough to win this race as he drops in for a tag. I think he's going to be strongly liked at the windows, and understandably so. I took a shot against him. And Zapruder, speaking of movies, on the outside of the main body, 8-2-12.
3-2, 8, and 12 for me. I'm going to put Forward Move on top. George Weaver from Mike Rapoli and Company off a career debut against Maiden Specials, going 6, moves to a route today and cuts back in class, going Maiden Special weight to Maiden Claiming. Stowe on the Wold in the 2nd spot. 3 starts so far this year. I thought they've all been competitive with what this group looks like, particularly since you add in the class drop. And then Miles in the 3rd spot. Been knocking around in this company the last 3, but the latest certainly touts this one as playable in here. In the 10th at Saratoga and final, 10th and final, 3-2, 8, and 12.
So what, day 19, right? Today?
Coming up.
Wednesday's the halfway point, right? So
that's right.
This is the 19th day of racing, and a tough day to be enthusiastic. Whataburger was brilliant in winning the Whitney, and we march on today. A very good card today, because I think there's at least 4 races you could go 6 deep. If you let me go 4 deep, I wouldn't take even money that I had the winner, which is nice. Nice 2-year-old baby race that I think is also on that list of highly competitive races. And it's a stunningly beautiful morning.
Yeah, no, it's going to be another great day. Great day yesterday. Another
good. And hopefully the turf will dry out. And, I guess the good is probably the best we could hope for, right? It'd be hard to get it back to firm.
Because it was a really nice day yesterday. Again, a breeze would have helped things out. But I'm not making any predictions.
I like your enthusiasm.
Again, low rollers up here today. Come up and try that. If you haven't yet, you'll have a lot of fun. Clubhouse Racebook today, double promo day with the match bet and the exacta board. And again, even if you didn't get on the team, root for me to at least get.
I'm rooting for you because I know how hard this mountain is to
show
scale.
pool. But I'm going to be trying the show pool. I think there are some but again, it's a tough card. But I think there's some opportunities to maybe knock it out of the park, because I think there could be some decent prices in the mix, perhaps. So we'll see.
I agree. I think actually the competitive fields it might sound odd, but I like my chance of hitting the show with 6 vying for it versus a win. I think, good luck. And now, do you put on Twitter when you're not a big Twitter guy, but
I'm trying to think of there's a web page for it.
Okay.
I pop it on the capital O.
Good luck. Like I said, I understand how not easy this is, and I think until you try it, you might not be in that boat. But up next, he's here. My co-host was getting nervous at his co-host, but Steve is in the building.
Half an hour.
Oh, see, he was on half an hour. See, I was saying, but usually walks around.
I was on the way out.
Because trust me, if you saw Steve today, you wouldn't miss him. This gorgeous sport coat he has on today. So he stays. I go. Up next, Loose on the Lead.
You've been watching the Handicappers Report. The Handicappers Report has been brought to you by Thorough Pace, Premium Racing Analytics, allowing bettors to identify races with extreme pace scenarios in a matter of seconds. Capital OTB's mobile wagering platform. Bet any place, anytime with Capital OTB's mobile wagering platform. And CapitalOTBBet.com, the premier wagering site in New York State.